It's just a freaky time to be an Indigenous person in this country. Treaty Principles Bill. He rewrites the Treaty of Waitangi, equality versus equity. He's saying we need equality in this country. Some people are getting special privileges because they're of a certain race. And we're saying some people need a little bit of extra help because they've been marginalised for such a long time. Right. He wants to rewrite New Zealand's founding document, which is crazy.
Okay. I'm really excited to have you here. I just want to give people a brief background of how we met. We met when I was traveling, and I did the Polynesian Triangle. When I was in Aotearoa, I wanted to learn more about the Waitangi Treaty, and so I went to this museum. Before I even get into the story, what would you call yourself in that moment? Like a tour guide or? Yeah, okay. And we just clicked. And
you're so nice.
I was like, oh, this girl's, I don't know, just the way you were talking about things, I was just this is I want to connect. And that was 3 years ago. I've been following your page since, and I know you're an artist. And Emily, I want you to introduce yourself and just maybe go in more in detail of where you're from.
All right. Kia ora. Huri tēnei no whakatohea me te whanau apanui, engari te piakeo I Kirikiri up north. Ko Emily tuku ingoa. So my name is Emily. I whakapapa to Whakatohea and Te Whanau Apanui. Those are my tribes. And I grew up in Kirikiri up north, and that's why I was working at Waitangi at the time. Happy to be here, and it's really cool to talk to you as well, because it's been a few years, and I really enjoyed meeting you there. I remember you offered, because I was like, I really want to visit Hawaii one day, but I was like, I know tourism's killing the place, so I don't want to go there. And you're like, oh, let me on Instagram, I'll host you or something. I was like, oh my gosh, dope. But I couldn't offer it to you back because I was living with my parents. But I'll let you know when I have a house.
Still stands the offer, whenever you make your way out here. If you want to share a little bit more about what the treaty symbolizes, a little bit more context, because even going in, I know you were a little hesitant. You're like, people should know, and honestly, there was so much that you had taught me, and I think there's so much just among other cultures. We know, in the context of I don't want to speak for everyone, but we have this idea of okay, yeah, you guys are occupied too, and we know some of that history, but not the the nitty and gritty of some of those details. And I think you having that experience as a Māori woman and working there just gives a different insight and a different perspective that you can only share.
Well, first I want to say that I'm not an expert on the treaty or anything. I'm 21, I'm a student, don't come for me. I have worked at the Waitangi Treaty Grounds for 3 summers as a tour guide. I've honestly only become kind of recently aware that people, even just in New Zealand, don't know that much, even just about our culture as much as I thought they did, because I feel like I've been immersed in it for so long that I didn't even, once I came out of it, I was like, oh my gosh, we're really alone out here. The treaty was signed in 1840. And it was an agreement between the Crown and rangatira Māori, so Māori chiefs. It basically said that the British could come over here and live here and engage in trade here. We have the Treaty of Waitangi, which is the English version, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which is the Te Reo Māori version. Both things say different things. The translations aren't completely correct. It was pretty rushed. Also, just the Māori way of life, and I'm sure it's the same in other Indigenous cultures, is a completely different outlook on things than the, I don't know what to call it, colonial way of life. Like, I don't know, yeah. Yeah, in a nutshell.
When these two documents were made, there was intention and purpose behind keeping it like separate, like having it not really transcribed the way it was supposed to transcribe. Is that correct?
So I think there are some definitely had good intentions, and I think others probably had bad intentions, just as is with everything else. One thing that New Zealand is lucky, we were the last major landmass to be colonized. They had colonized everywhere else first, pretty much, and learned a lot from it. And I think the Queen especially definitely wanted to do it right this time. And even Māori chiefs, they had seen the horrible things that had happened in Australia to the Aboriginal people, and they're like, we don't want that. We're so lucky to get a treaty. Let's sign it. Since we're such like a young country and we have such a young history, yeah, it did start a lot later. There had been trial and error.
So I know it was intended, as you said, it was intended to allow them to also trade and to have like this like union in a sense, yeah. How has that not been upheld? And like, can you talk about like what actually transpired from this?
Some of the main translation issues were kawanatanga. They used that the Crown would have kawanatanga over New Zealand, which translates to governance. And the translators used that word because they knew Māori knew what that word meant, because it says it somewhere in the Māori Bible. So they knew what governance was. But really, the word that they were translating, like, they wanted sovereignty. So Māori were like, absolutely, you can have governance over your own people in our country. Let's sign that. But that's not in the English translation. And then another one is tino rangatiratanga, which is probably like our version of sovereignty, like our absolute authority over all our lands and our possessions, of taonga. And taonga translates to like treasure, very simply, but like I think I said this on my tour. It also, to Māori, it can mean like non-tangible things like our language and our rivers and our land. So that's another misunderstanding within the treaty. The treaty has not been honoured in that Māori signed Te Treaty of Waitangi, not the Treaty of Waitangi. So what they signed is what it says in the treaty. That's what we want. What they low-key haven't even done what's in the treaty. But like that's what they have gone off. And it's also not a legal document, even though it's New Zealand's founding document. So we think it kind of should be a legal document.
Yeah, no, I mean, like even just some of the stuff that you're saying, I'm like, oh, that's like newer information for me too. So one of the things was, that's what it was that you said it's not a legal document. We were, you know, illegally annexed and we are still illegally occupied to this day. I think there's just like a lot of ignorance in the world, and especially everything that's happening within the Americas right now, in North America. People are just like, okay, I know, it's like,
Anyways,
really ignorant. I think, you know, a lot of the times people are just, they're not aware of the way these places are occupied and they're not aware of the legality of it. I had like, there was a student at my school and I don't want to like quote unquote this, but someone had told me that a teacher had said to one of our Hawaiian students, "You're American first, you're not Hawaiian." And I'm just like, oh my God, like the ignorance in that. How are you saying it's not even like an official document, or it's like not like a legal document?
Yeah, that's why everyone's fighting for it to be, because it literally the country is built upon the Treaty of Waitangi, but we're urging for it to be built upon Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It is a barrier as well when talking like fighting for the rights of Indigenous people, having to do that in their way, when everything has been built against you, is a massive block. Like even when we had our treaty principles built, to even write a submission against that, so many people didn't know what to do, because no one knows about the laws and all that stuff, because it doesn't make sense in their heads, and people are worse off sometimes, so they're not able to educate themselves in that way.
Like, and that's another thing. Things are done this way to make us not as aware of these issues or of these rights, and things are done in a way on purpose. Like, that's how it's strategically done to limit our knowledge. That was like another thing that I feel like we could go into. I know you don't want to, you talked about what's happening right now with the bill. Just like a little brief of what's trying to be done. Just for some people who may not know. Quick disclaimer, I just wanted to announce that this video was done prior to the results being in about the treaty's principle bill. And great news, over 90% of people have voted against this bill. That's over 270,000 people. So this is a huge win for Aotearoa. And this just shows you when people are unified, when people come together, the kind of change that we can create. When we fight the cause, we really can create massive change. So wherever you're watching from, I hope this inspires you. You can create change in your community, and Aotearoa is an example of how we can change the narrative and how we can change the ones in power. So great win. Super stoked. So continue watching to keep learning more. Thanks.
The Treaty Principles Bill is a bill that the ACT Party has brought into Parliament. So right now our country is under a coalition agreement between three parties. So the National Party got the most votes, but they needed to get on board New Zealand First and the ACT Party to have enough votes to win. They also have their agreements, like what everyone wants if we're going to be in a coalition agreement. And what the ACT Party really wanted was this Treaty Principles Bill. Basically, it completely rewrites the Treaty of Waitangi to say what he wants and make what will benefit him best, pretty much. Okay, so like equality versus equity. He's saying we need equality in this country, blah, blah, blah. Like some people are getting like special privileges because they're of a certain race. And we're saying some people need a little bit of extra help because they've been marginalised for such a long time. Right. So he wants to rewrite like New Zealand's founding document, which is crazy. And it could affect Māori pretty badly. Like a lot of our funding's already been cut. And the government agencies are having to get rid of a lot of Māori staff who are working in like Māori roles. Just the culture isn't valued now like it was under our last government. It's taken us, like people are saying, it's taken us back 20 years. And it really is. It's honestly freaky. And New Zealand isn't in a very good economic situation at the moment as well. So it's just a freaky time to be an Indigenous person in this country.
And saying that whether or not it gets passed, it's the fact that that could even be brought up. The scary thing is like if it happens there, or even if you just have an idea, that sparks an idea and movement around the world for how these other places, how these other countries can take power and really continue to change the narrative and shape the narrative as if they haven't done enough.
Definitely. Yeah, and seeing everything, like it's this pattern that is happening all over the world at the moment. Like every country is going, what is it? Is it right wing? I think. Yeah. Look at what's happening in Gaza, and I'm like, if they wanted to, they could just turn on all of us because that's what they're doing. The world hates Indigenous people.
You're seeing all these movements too. Like I don't know if you saw. I saw this video. Huge protest in Greece. I know it's linked to it was like there was a crash that happened, but it's been a huge national movement and like one of the biggest protests like in the world. And I just find that really interesting because you're seeing all these different protests happening collectively and like people fight back and people really becoming unified and coming together. You're just like seeing all of these things coexisting within the same time, and also the disruption of the people at the top, and not just them, everyone, like even like Hollywood, like a lot of secrets are surfacing and coming to truth with like our Hollywood and our politics and the people that we're supposed to like look up to. Like it's just all coming like crumbling down. And
Yeah.
and we're questioning things. Like even with like all the scary shit that is happening, I am also seeing this like other like duality like more than ever. I don't want to say more than ever because I'm only 30 and I can't speak for colonization. But you're seeing like all these indigenous people come together collectively and fight back.
Definitely. There's this funny as huh?
I said I love to see it.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's good. There's this quote from this kaumātua elder. I think it was during the Hikoi, and I don't know word for word, but basically he was saying like, I want to thank you, David Seymour, because you've done what no Māori leader has ever done in the history, and that's brought literally everyone together, and it's so true. He's a cracker.
and that's like perspective. That's like a whole. I was just talking to this girl about perspective or perception. And when we shift the narrative of like focusing in on everything that's causing in the destruction and what's to come through that, but then you can also shift that power and put that power in to like look at what it's doing. It's unifying us together collectively. And I know there was that you said Hikoi, yeah, that was the march. So like just for like for people who don't know like what Hikoi is, or
I always just forget Hikoi means walk.
it was like a 9-day walk from the North Island all the way down to Parliament.
Yeah, so from the top of the North Island down to Parliament. It was the biggest protest in this country. The walk that Whina Cooper led, the Land March, which I don't know when that happened. I might Google it quickly. It happened in 1975. Yeah, they like did the same walk pretty much. Yeah, pretty cool parallels between the two, but a shame that we're still doing it all these years later.
Yeah, in response to the land rights.
Yeah, her famous words were "not one more acre."
I remember when I was in Aotearoa and I was like being hosted by this family when I was doing woofing. We watched we watched that, and then we watched Once for Warriors, which I had seen like such like I had seen that movie when I was a kid. Thanks, Mom. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is such a heavy movie, but it speaks such volume because you see this within all indigenous and native cultures, all marginalized communities. And that is like it's a big issue from colonialism and capitalism and like the way the world has become structured, alcoholism and domestic abuse and drugs. And another person who hosted me, who I'm gonna have on the interview too. I'm excited to have him. Anaru is his name. He's a Maori carver, and he just has like so much mana'o, so much knowledge about the crown, and talks about how they used alcohol as a tactic to occupy different places in the world, and then to, especially within Aotearoa, like using it as a way to do what they did. And then it's really interesting because he did studies and research on you guys call them pakeha.
Pākehā, yeah.
Pakeha. How do you say again?
Pākehā.
Pakeha. He studied doing the difference in DNA with alcohol, and he saw how alcohol would affect them versus Maori, and how they were able to use that as a means to occupy. And he was saying that in our DNA, in indigenous and native people's DNA, don't have the same chemical, and they're changed in like body and DNA that you would see in a European. So like a European can drink way more and tolerate way more, and versus someone else who their body was not built for that. And we can just see like how all these were used as a way to control and occupy a place. Maybe go into more about just working at the Waitangi Treaty Grounds, just like what that's been like for you, and yeah, any personal stories you want to share.
I mean, being the site where the treaty was signed, you kind of are obliged to honour the treaty in everything that happens there. It's literally such a political place. Like, you'll get literally everything, and people feel like, especially Māori, feel pretty hurt sometimes being there. There's a lot of mixed emotions people feel, and sometimes they get a little bit sad or angry, and maybe their mind isn't so clear. It's definitely a really interesting place to work. But it's great. All I learnt in school is that there was a Treaty of Waitangi, and it was between the Indigenous people of New Zealand and England, is probably as far as I knew, and that it happened in Paihia. That's probably all I knew until I started working there. They really don't teach it that interestingly at school. And I actually have had, like, when I'm on tour and I'm talking to kids and stuff, they'll come up to me and be like, that is like not what we learned in school. That was so interesting. And I remember being bored learning about it in high school as well. And now it's like everything I do revolves around the history. So yeah, I did learn a lot working there. But also, I had just completed my first year of Māori Visual Arts, which is the degree, my bachelor's degree. I saw one of the things in your questions was asking about, like, a piece that relates to a creation story. I'm pretty sure it's the same with, like, all Indigenous art, is like literally everything, like, references something and eventually it goes back to the creation story. But one piece that I'm quite proud of is, it was a photography work of my friends who I asked to lie down like Papatuanuku, who's our Earth Mother. Do you know what that looks like in your head right now?
What I'm envisioning is like femininity, like to showcase like curves, and to showcase pieces or abstracts of our face that connect us to Mother Earth, but also connect us to our culture.
Do you have a position in mind when I say lying down like Papatuanuku?
I
Like
see
our Earth Mother?
like on the side, like laying on the side and showcasing the, yeah.
You're exactly right.
Ah, I love that.
So what I'm getting at here is how women are sexualized and how our Earth has also been sexualized, and the photo is chopped up into three, so it speaks to the, like, separation of our land, and how that is sexual assault on Papatuanuku, our Earth Mother. So even just the way that she's portrayed in this, like, position on the side is sexualizing her. That's kind of what I'm talking about. And she relates to our creation story. So Papatuanuku, our Earth Mother, and Ranginui, our Sky Father, so they were, like, together. And they had heaps of children, and they were stuck in between them in the darkness, and they all wanted to get out. So Tane Mahuta, our Māori god of the forest, decided to separate them. So he put his shoulders against his mum and his legs against his father, and he pushed them apart like this, sent his dad up into the sky, and brought in Te Ao Marama, or the world of light. So that's our creation story, and that's how Papatuanuku relates to it. So he's like, they think he's 2,000 to 3,000 years old, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys, but, like, talk about those things like they're people. And actually, something that's really cool, I don't know if this is happening in other countries as well, but a lot of our, I'm going to call them in English, important landmarks who we think of as important people.
Yes. Like Kilauea, like Pele, volcano goddess.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
They're being given, like, the rights of humans, which is really cool. So, like, you're not allowed to assault them in any way.
Significant landmarks that are tied to these significant cultural places and stories. We have on Mauna Kea, which is a really big, I'm wearing my earrings, controversial thing, because we already have several telescopes on that Mauna. And right now, they're trying to pass this bill that would allow for drilling and geothermal drilling on the Mauna. And this Mauna holds a lot of significance for us because the picos of our ali'i are buried there. And like the picos, for people who don't know, it's like the umbilical cord. So it's like as to break it down in a Western approach to get other people to understand, I'm like, think of it as a cemetery. And then you build something right on top of your ancestor on your cemetery. It's been happening and ongoing, but just recently in February, this bill came up. So it is so important to decolonize your mind and see these important landmarks and spaces as our kupuna, as our ancestors, because that's what it is. And I think not everyone sees it that way.
And what were you saying before, Mona?
The Mauna. Yeah, the Mauna are like the mountain.
Because we call it Monga.
Okay.
I was assuming, but I was like, I just want to make sure that I am thinking about the same thing.
So much similarities with the language because of the migrations. The closest in dialect is the Marquesas Islands, with Hawaiian. But your dialect is super similar to Rapa Nui.
Interesting, because like to me, all of those islands feel so separate to New Zealand.
Right.
Because we are like connected to like Cook Islands because we were colonized by the same people, but then Haiti is French, and then Rapa Nui, Chile, and you guys, America.
Right.
Like it feels so separate. Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah. Kind of just had this like, this moment when I was at the Waitangi Treaty and I saw on the maps how the US, France, and then Britain were all working like kind of like at the same time of trying to get these places.
yeah, and the French were also keen on New Zealand as well at the same time, which was another motivation to sign the treaty. I think the accents are so unfortunate for like, sorry, but you guys having to have an American accent, that sucks.
So I have a very American accent because I was raised in California and I moved to Hawaii when I was 19. I remember when I was in Aotearoa and I was on the South Island, I was who I was being hosted by, he like introduced me to his friend, Anaru is his name. And the guy was Pakeha. He had this like accent that I was like, what the hell is he even?
South Island accent.
That's a whole different thing, especially like for Pakeha, they have their own dialect. And I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand a word. There is a dialect out here. You can definitely hear like the accent and stuff and like when it comes out. And you just like me, mine's very, very Americanized. I love your accent.
Like if I had an English accent, I feel like I'd be mad. New Zealand and Australia both have like really similar accents. It feels a little bit like we're a bit smaller than something bigger.
South Island, they have like their own dialect.
For Māori dialects, we just say like different meta. Like meta is the word for dialect.
It was only for it wasn't like it didn't include like Maoris. It was only including like Pakehas like of the South Island, how they talk. Maybe it was like a negative connotation.
Bogan.
Maybe. I think that sounds like it might be.
No way they're reclaiming the word bogan. Maybe it's bogan. You put this in the podcast, someone's going to be screaming at their screen.
Okay, well, the last question, I guess, leads me to is just like, I always like to talk about solutions in ways that we can make a difference, whether through art and reconnecting. What do you see as solutions for just like some of the different topics that we did cover today?
I think like the first solution for any Māori person would be go and pick up a tea towel. It's what we like say for like go back like to your marae and help out with your community and like actually help. Like don't just go off and do amazing things and not come back. Like you gotta get in the kitchen, dry the dishes. Because I feel like that's where it starts. What should they do? Quite frankly, I don't think it's up to us. I think someone put us into this position. Someone needs to say sorry. But obviously we do have to do something. But I also think as well, for Pākehā or non-Māori, have a big responsibility in decolonizing their minds. I know a lot of Pākehā do a lot of great things with good intentions, but sometimes they don't realize what they're doing is either not helping, getting in the way, or taking opportunities away from Māori. So, like, for example, I've definitely noticed that some of the protests and stuff that I've gone to, that a lot of, we call them tangata tiriti, like people of the treaty, so allies, who will come, which is great, need them there, but they tend to go up the front and Māori end up being pushed back, I've definitely noticed, because they're super keen, which is super great. But I would ask them to maybe step back and give those front seats to Māori. That's like the ultimate thing tangata tiriti can do. And I think like taking those volunteer positions in like those kinds of situations as well is the best thing that they can do. And for Indigenous people in general, honestly, like, you guys can ask for more. I've met some Indigenous people like from many different countries last year, and they're like talking about the things that they're going through at the moment, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, you can ask for so much more. And I know that like they have gone through a lot more than us, and because we're such a small country, we can get through things a little bit quicker. But I think take up space for Indigenous people. I can hear those frogs.
They're starting.
They're so cute.
I know people really hate them, the koki. They're like this little, like, how are you gonna get upset about something that small? But also, as a frog girl, I had a frog named Cheeto, a white frog. So I have a little special place for them.
We just don't have animals like that here. All we have are birds and bugs that are native. Oh, fish. But when do I see birds? When do I see bugs? When do I see fish? Never. Yes, take up space, Indigenous people. That's my advice.
Yeah, just bringing more awareness into that space and what other people can do. Because again, I think like as you said, like good intention, but sometimes when you're trying to do something of good intention, sometimes you can only see it through your perspective and your perception. And so it's really good again to like decolonize your mind and understand like, okay, yes, I'm here to support, but I am not the front line of this. I am here to help and support. It is our issue collectively, but this issue is targeting them, and how can I support in that way? So
yeah, and even like for myself, even what I'm doing right now, like I would not put myself forward to do this. I did this because you specifically asked me to.
Because yeah, the focus of this podcast not only to share marginalized voices in communities, but it's also rooted among my travels and the people that I met around my travels. And
cool.
Yeah, so I was like, I wanna have you on here because of that. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. And if others wanted to connect with you, follow you, where can they, if you want to share that, where can they find you? At the Waitangi Museum, not?
No, don't go there asking for me. Because I'm not there. My Instagram is probably my main place. It is Te Ao Emily, so Teao Emily. Also, Loki, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get LinkedIn clout at the moment. My name is Emily Lyle. Follow me.
How do you say the last name? How do you spell the last name?
Lyle, Lyall.
Thank you. Lyall. Find her on LinkedIn, okay?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get so many collections. I'm trying to be a LinkedIn influencer.
Yes, LinkedIn influencer. We're gonna put that energy out there. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.